New camera, everybody. I think it looks really nice. It might be off-centered a little bit. But I'm here to talk about Pro Tour THEROS. A little late, yes. But it's only happened at least 4 days ago. Something like that. Anyway. So, Mono Blue Devotion is a deck that has been blowing up all over the world. All over the world, really. But on Moto and at the Pro Tour, tons of people were playing this deck. And it's alright. Because I see why people picked it, because it's very consistent. And, well, to me, I don't like it that much, you know. I always have that argument Dies to Doomblade, Tidebinder Mage, one of the main win conditions, Master of Waves. And then, you know, Thassa herself is pretty sweet. You know, with her not being a creature, she still makes your guys unblockable. But the thing is, a lot of their creatures die to a lot of things. And if they're not playing a heavy counterspell backup, then they're not, really doing that well. Which is what I would do for my Mono Blue deck. If I was to make it. Which I might, though. Because the deck is pretty sweet. So yeah, that deck won. And it's just been blowing up everywhere. But, I mean, there's a lot of things that people could have done with the deck. You know, Aetherize is a nice board wipe. Even against tokens. Even against opposing Master Wave decks, you know, they have to replay their hand, and, you know, I think that in itself is pretty cool. I mean, as long as there's not too many ETB effects enter the battlefield. So, looking at the rest of the top 8, we have a R-Green, or more or less a Mono-Green Devotion deck and a Mono-Red Devotion deck. 2 more Devotion decks that are just so good. The Mono Green Devotion deck is nuts. Voyaging Satyr and Shrine to Nyx, and a whole bunch of green permanents, you just vomit out your hand out into the battlefield. And then Garruk itself picks up more cards to put in your hand. And then you have Splash of Red for Domri and Xenagos, the Reveler. And you just have yourself a really awesome, sweet deck. So overall, the Mono Green Devotion deck is really good. It has really good staying power, even against the Mono Red Devotion decks. And I think that deck in itself is pretty sweet. The Mono Red Devotion deck is something we've always seen before. I mean, sort of, but not really. It's like a mid-range Mono Red deck, more taking away from the Mono Red aggro decks. I don't really remember what was played in it, really. But, I think that deck was pretty cool. But it's something that, you know, I don't really want to touch upon because I've seen Mono Red enough. Moving on away from that, we have the Black-White deck. Something I'm really excited for because Orzhov is my guild, and I love Orzhov, love Black-White. I had originally created a Black-White mid-range deck prior to the Pro Tour, and seeing it there just, blew my mind. And seeing it played by, Patrick Chapin and Paul Riesel, those two are really great players in the game, especially Patrick Chapin being a Hall of Famer and whatnot. You know, that in itself told me that this deck was really good. And it really is. It has all the tools. It has removal, it has threats after threat after threat, and it's got hand disruption, it's got, you know, it's really good. It's a really good deck. So I'm really, really excited to see this deck take off in more directions, more or less. Another deck was Mono Black Devotion. This deck was awesome as well. I love the Mono Black Devotion decks. Great Measure of Asaphadel, you know, is a powerhouse, 2, 4, 5. You know, apparently the new Thragtusk. Not really, but I think it has a place. And there's so many black mana symbols in Standard right now in the form of Underworld Connections, Nightveil Spectre, Desecration Demon, as I said before. In itself, a lot of really good things going for this deck. The only thing we didn't see was the demon. You know, that guy just vomits out a whole bunch of 1/1 harpies, you know. And with there being a little bit more black permanents than there's blue permanents in the blue decks because they want to play counter magic, you know, you can make just as many Master Wave tokens, just as much Harpy tokens as they can Master Wave tokens. And the best thing about it is everything you have trades with their Master Wave tokens. Master Waves does not stand up to the Abhorrent Overlord. That is the demon that I was talking about before. So yeah, that was That deck was pretty sweet, but Overpower Overlord was not in the deck. A little disappointing, but what can you do? And I think that was it for the top 8, yeah. Just like 4 other Devotion decks and Mono Blue Devotion everywhere. Haven't seen Mono White Devotion yet, but me being the dirtily player that I am, trying to make a really sweet Mono White Devotion deck. I've already have one on a couple of websites, and people say they like it. I think it's pretty sweet. Heliod himself is like not the great god, like as everyone thought he was going to be, or like because he's like the main guy of the story. But I think he has some really sweet potential in like blue-white control decks, and even mono-white control decks. So that is Pro Tour THEROS in a nutshell. Top 8, all across the board. There was just a ton of people playing the mono blue devotion decks. A couple people playing the black-white decks. A couple people playing mono-red. A couple people playing red-green. So, I mean, there was still a lot of innovation. I didn't think there was going to be a lot of innovation. I thought it was just going to be nothing but Esper, blue-white, and mono-red, and that was it. But seeing the mono-blue devotion decks, the mono-black deck topping and stuff, and black-white deck topping, that in itself gave me hope for the new standard. So, that's all for now for the Pro Tour. That's my thoughts on the Pro Tour. Really short and sweet and simple. Why not? Dark Avenger signing out.